And it is my pleasure to introduce to you, for many in this room who needs no introduction, Crystal Mercer. Her work at the Clinton School, her team-based project, and some of her associates are here, was developing a public service curriculum for the Hope Academy of Public Service with the Hope Public School District. She's headed to Ghana this summer to work on an arts education project. She's a graduate of the UA Little Rock with a BA degree, theater arts and dance, creativity. The C in Crystal could also stand for creativity because she is multi-talented, a designer, an artist, a playwright. She is a person for all seasons. And tonight, we are honored to welcome a student to this podium to talk about a love story waiting to happen. Please welcome published author and Clinton School student, Crystal Mercer.
Wow. Thank you, Dean Rutherford. Thank you all for being here. This is the most magnificent night of my life to date, hands down, and I appreciate you all. It's hard to pull folks out on a Wednesday now, so I appreciate you all for being here, and I definitely want to thank a few more people who made this possible. I'm just overwhelmed and overjoyed with the support for this book and the support that I've had from relatives and friends and people in the community and my community here at the Clinton School, and it just feels so good to be sharing this moment with you tonight, because a lot of times when you are a public figure, you're seen in one way, and this book has many dimensions of who I am, and I'm so excited and honored that I get to share that with you tonight. So, first of all, again, I want to thank everyone for being here. And now I'm going to have a real Venetia Black moment and thank our sponsors, the Clinton School of Public Service. I have to say thank you to Dean. I've known Dean Rutherford all of my life, like since I was 12 or 13 years old when I was in junior high school. And so I just want to thank you, Dean, for believing in me and challenging me as a student and as a public service. I really appreciate you. I also want to thank Nikolai DePippa. Y'all give it up for Nikolai, who's right here. I brought my proof to school, and I was showing my classmate, Reggie Ballard. We were doing a recruitment video for students of color here at the Clinton School. And he said, well, are you doing a book signing? I'm like, I hope. And he's like, do it here. And I said, okay. So here we are. I really appreciate Nikolai for that. I also want to thank my professors here at the Clinton School. There are a few that I want to give a special shout out to, and some staff here, because most of you who have followed my journey and what some of you will learn tonight is my first semester at the Clinton School. I spent about half of that time in the hospital, and I was in and out of the hospital. I had surgery during finals week. It was either finals or my life. I chose my life, but I did come back to school. And there were a few people who were instrumental in that while I was going through a lot of physical and mental health challenges. And I just have to say to Dr. Bavon, Dr. Standiford, Alex Thomas, Annette Gary, Jonathan Dunkley, Dr. Williams, who is so fly, if y'all know her, that's who I want to be when I grow up. These are people who fed me, who brought me food when I was at home and I didn't have anything to eat. They came to visit me at the hospital. They sent me emails. They checked on me. They called me. They were people who made sure that I was well, including my classmates who came through. I'm looking at Emily. She brought me salad, and Susanna picked me up, and Caroline made me vegan food, my fellow vegan. So I'm just so excited that y'all are here tonight and that y'all were a part of that journey of me healing. Also, I want to give a thanks to Dean DePippa. He emailed me and said he can't be here tonight, but I've told Dean DePippa this in private, but I want to let you all know here in public that next to my father, Dean DePippa is one of the greatest men I've ever met. And he is really inspired me and pushed me and encouraged me for as long as I've known him to get through this program with style and grace and poise, and he just helps keep that inner Black Panther at bay when I be trying to come out. He's like, it's okay. So I want to thank Dean Pippa. A few more people. My mother, who also couldn't be here tonight, she was in a car accident last night, which really sucks. And also for some of you who have been following my journey, you know that sometimes the temperature of that relationship can be very hot and cold, as sometimes it is between mothers and daughters, but she is making a valiant effort to be more of a mother to me, and I really appreciate her because she wrote the greatest love story of all, and that was my life. So I want to say thank you to my mama for sure. Also to Santa Jean, who introduced me to my publisher, who is here, Iris Air Williams. Wave to the people, Iris. Y'all, I had to put some wind and fro for Iris because I have been getting on her nerves for the last 6 weeks. I've been calling her, I've been emailing her, but she has been so professional and so poised, and she is the owner of the Butterfly Typeface Publishing, and she is the reason I have books on this table, so I appreciate you so much. You the love of my life right now. I also want to thank Keisha Lagnop, Verda Davenport-Boer, and Joshua Asante, who contributed to the book through forward introductions and photographs. I want to thank Quincy Watson, who's taking photographs over here with the Dwayne Wayne shades. Give it up for the culture, Mr. Watson. I want to thank my boo, Janelle Blake, who has kept me in many hard times, and she is wearing, you wearing this Kente, girl. But she's my sister, and all of you who are here tonight, I'm so appreciative. And I saved the best for last. I want to thank my father, the late attorney Christopher C. Mercer, Jr., who encouraged me to share my poetry and share my gift with the world where I was hesitant and afraid and apprehensive. He was the one who was saying, you need to do this, you should do this. People will be inspired by what you have to say. And that's why I love Iris so much, because she believes the same things, that people want to hear what I have to say. And my father was the one who planted that seed, and now it's sprouting. So it's been 5 years since he's passed away, but he is right here with us tonight. And I just want to thank him for planting that seed and encouraging me. So thank you all again. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to tell you some stories, and I'm going to read you some poems. Hey. And then I'm going to sign some books. And I think that's how we'll do it. And I'll save some time for questions at the end, because I definitely want to interact with you. This is why I write. I don't want to be talking for an hour. I want to hear what you have to say and answer questions that you have. But I want to share with you how we got to this space. So if you weren't inside of my inner circle or a close relative or a friend, you probably would not have known that I have been writing poetry since I was 8 years old. And this was something that started in my 3rd grade class with Miss Gingrich. She had a son named Billy, and y'all, Billy was bad as hell. That's just the only way I can put it. We had a bathroom in our classroom, and every so often, you know, when it was a little more socially acceptable, just step into my office. She had to get with Billy sometimes, be like, little boy, I'm trying to teach class. But she was an excellent teacher, and I remember seeing her some years later, and I told her how much she meant to me. But Ms. Gingrich introduced our 3rd grade class, a bunch of 8-year-olds, to haikus. Anybody familiar with haikus? Yes, I see some hands, I see some nods. So the structure of taking 5-7-5 syllables and writing something very simple and beautiful, but coming from a complex thought and putting it in that format. And so I was obsessed with writing haikus. And I knew from that class, I declared that day that I was going to be a writer. I mean, I'm 8, I didn't know nothing about nothing, but we were learning about haikus, and it was something that just ignited this fire in me. So holding on to that theme, a couple of years later, and I was still writing. So I was about 10, almost 11. My father has some family in Warren, Arkansas. Y'all know where Warren, Arkansas is? It's in the South, okay, y'all? And, like, people think Little Rock is country, but, like, we're metro booming. Warren was country, okay? I ain't never been to a place so country in my life. And so we went to Warren for a funeral because one of his cousins had passed. And I remember just feeling the sun, like, pierce through the window and being bored to death, but having like, hey, I have a legal pad. My father was an attorney. He always had pen and paper on him. That was his way. I always have pen and paper on me. That is my way. I get it from my mama. I get it from my daddy. So on the way to Warren, I was writing haikus about the experience, going to see a relative that I had never met, but that I was going to bury. And I remember feeling how strange that was, that, and even to this day, meeting people at funerals kind of makes me feel a little weird, because I felt it so deeply when I was young. And even in recent years with my father passing and other relatives, I became like the organizer for, you gonna write a poem? You gonna say some words? And I'm like, dude, can I just grieve for a little bit? Can I breathe and can I grieve? But this person I didn't know was someone who was close to my father. And I wrote haikus all the way down, and I wrote haikus all the way back. And I shared a few with my dad. He's like, these are pretty good. But you know, parents say that. They say everything you do is good, everything you wear is good, every word you say is just sun, moon, and stars. And so I was like, okay, that's nice. But I kept writing. So junior high school, I'm about 6 years in. I'm 14 years old, writing poems. And this is when the hormone monster approaches. Anybody know the hormone monster? Yeah, she's a real piece of work. And so I started writing about what I felt for boys, because I liked boys, and what I wanted to experience. Like, everybody had a boyfriend, or they were holding hands, or they ate lunch together in the cafeteria, real cute and innocent. But I was the girl that wasn't really that cute, so nobody was checking for me. I mean, I got it together now. But at 14, it wasn't really that cute. So I wrote a lot of poems about being wanted, and I wrote a lot of poems about what I wanted in a mate. And I really think that eHarmony owed me some money, because I put together the first dating profile when I was like 13. Like, what's your favorite color? How many siblings do you have? What's your favorite subject? So like all these little things I would do, but I never even got close enough to distribute a questionnaire. So thank God for the Clinton School, because that's all we do is research and surveys. I got to flex my skills. I know y'all feel me on the front row. So junior high school was writing a lot of poems about boys, and then something in me evolved. I was still writing. And when I got to the 9th grade, which for those of you who are in my age range, I'll be 35 this year, young, gifted, and black. I'm so fly. But at that time, 9th grade was still a part of junior high. It wasn't a part of high school yet. So you got your high school credits, but you weren't necessarily a part of the fold. And this was the time when I started becoming more curious about civil rights, because my parents took us to events with them, and we met a lot of key people and were familiar with people like the Little Rock Nine was like our aunties and uncles, but not really it wasn't really sinking in how poignant it was to be playing in Daisy Bates' backyard, or how honored it was to be in the front row at an event that was paying homage to someone who had contributed to civil rights. So in 9th grade, I started asking my father questions about his experience at Central High School. He was the field secretary for the NAACP at the time. He worked with Daisy Bates, Wiley Brenton Sr., Thurgood Marshall, the Little Rock Nine, and their families. And he wasn't giving up any information. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna volunteer at the historic site. And he's like, yeah, girl, you do that. So that's what I did, knowing that I would be going to Central the next year. And being a volunteer with the National Park Service at 14 years old, greeting people who came from all over the world to stand in front of a high school and feel and experience and read and take in what had happened to non-Black students shifted my train of thought and where my writing was going. And so I said, okay, Daddy, I get it now. And I have some real questions for you. And that was the beginning of our dialogue about his work in the civil rights movement. And it was such a beautiful time, and I wish, I had the foresight or the insight or the, hindsight. I wish I had a smartphone then. I wish I had a video camera then. I wish I even thought to take out his tape recorder that he used when he was meeting with clients and record every single word he told me, because my father was better than the internet. He was better than a Google search. It's like I asked him any question and he had the answer. And we had so many conversations about that time, about his experience, and why he kept it from me, because it was painful. And that's why I kept journals and I wrote poems, because a lot of things that I was thinking or experiencing were painful and I didn't want to share it with anybody. And so that was something that he had experienced as well. So my writing shifted to focus more on that pain. I have thousands of poems about my dad, about the Little Rock Nine, about being a student at Central. And I continued my work volunteering with the National Park Service and ended up getting a job with them when I was in college in their STEP program, as student temporary employment. And that was even better. So instead of like just showing up in my jeans and like a sweater and whatever I was wearing from school, I had a real live park ranger uniform. I got to wear green and gray. I had a gold badge. I had a name tag. It was so fly. And I got to greet over 100,000 people every year that I worked there. They wanted to come see this high school, and it was magnificent. When we had programs, and you know how. Y'all know our state. Now, I hope I ain't giving you new information, but somebody putting together a program. They ain't got no speakers. They ain't got no food. They ain't got nobody listed. Who do they call? Oh, well, Mr. Mercer would do it, or such and such would do it. Hey, will you call your mama and see if she'll come down and talk about when she went to high school in the 60s? And you'd be like, okay. So my daddy ended up being a guest speaker at a lot of programs when I was in the National Park Service, and supported a lot of the programs that I did while I was there. And that was also a space where we got closer, and I feel like my writing grew because also I was in high school, so I was writing for college, and I was writing essays, and I was doing research and reading papers, and so then again, it expanded that thought process. After leaving Central, we found out as a family, my father was diagnosed with lung cancer. And I had dreams of being uber black and going to Spelman and leaving the state and like growing some long locks and reading Malcolm X under trees and doing that thing. But I could not stand to be away from my daddy. We're like, I don't even know how to explain closer than close. There's still no separation between us, and he's been gone for over 5 years. And so I couldn't leave him when I knew he was sick, and I decided to go to the University of Arkansas Little Rock. I started at UCA. That didn't work out, and then made my way back a little closer to home to be closer to my dad. And I feel like I made the right choice. I didn't miss out on anything by being in Little Rock. I feel like at times where education can be very Eurocentric and confining, that who I am made away from me in that program. And so I learned a lot about how to not interact with people, and I got a chance to perform and write and be close to my family. And if anything happened, I was just right here. I didn't have to get on a plane. I didn't have to even drive 45 minutes from Conway. I'm at the door like, hey, sir, let me come get you. Let me come scoop you. What's wrong? I'm there. And so I started writing more about my dad, and I didn't know that I was, in a way, writing some of his memoir and his experience, which I do want to explore more as I branch out into more poetry and prose. But I've captured a lot of moments about his life, about him as a father, about my relationship with my mother, and about things that I was just uncomfortable talking about in public. I could put it on paper. And so from there, I really just started writing every day. And this is a word to the wise, or anybody who's in the audience who wants to be a writer, who wants to write a book, who has a single thought in your mind, put it on paper. Be your own historian, record yourself, keep your story. And that was keeping me together. So when my father became more ill, and this was about 5 years ago. I did accept a position. He was well enough for a while. I accepted a position teaching in Baltimore, Maryland. I was teaching theater. I had kindergarten through 4th grade. Oh my gosh, it was so fun. I had 354 students, 354 hugs every day. I mean, it was like broken bones and teeth falling out and pee on their tennis shoes, but it was the best time of my life. I'm like, Miss Mercer, can you tie my shoe? Oh, it's wet. You need to learn how to tie your shoe. So, and that was another class. But I had a really good time, loved my students, loved working with them. But I remember when I was about to renew my contract and go back for my second year, it was fun. I was on the East Coast. I got to go to New York every weekend. My youngest brother lives in New York. Got to see him, hang out with him, go do open mics at poetry spots in New York, like they're real live East Coast living, single girl on the East Coast, working hard, living that life, loving my students. It was everything. But my father asked me to come home. And I was like, well, okay, you know I got bronchitis that first go round, but I'm going to save up some leave and I'm not going to miss any days. And he's like, no, I want you to come home. And I was like, oh, okay. So the day before my second year started at my school, I wrote a letter of resignation. I sold as much as I could in my apartment. I left the rest on the street. I stuffed my little Volkswagen Jetta, and I drove 17 hours from Baltimore, Maryland to Little Rock, Arkansas to be with my father. And when I walked in the house, my daddy had an afro like me, and he's a real clean-cut man. If anybody know my father, he's clean-cut, he's wearing suits, he got a white tie. I'm like, what are they doing to you? There's only room for one afro in this family. I'm not having it. We getting you a haircut tomorrow. And 2 months later, he passed away when I moved home. And it was devastating because all those thoughts like, should I have been here? Should I have taken that position in Baltimore? Should I have just stayed? And really, I have no regrets because my father encouraged me to go. I had never lived that far away from home. And at the time, I was 28 years old. And I'm like, I just want to feel what it feels like to take care of myself. And I want to experience new things, and I want to meet new people. And what is like very constricting about home, it's like when everybody knows you, you walking down the street, and y'all, I've been rocking this afro since 1983. So people will see my hair from like a mile down the road, and they're like, Crystal. They're like, or you know, the elders will get you now. Now don't be out here acting up now. I'm gonna tell your daddy. And I'm like, please don't tell him you saw me at the club. That's not a conversation we need to have. That was my 20s. I'm in my 30s. But we have evolved. But I moved back home to be with my father, and then he died. And losing my father was like losing a piece of myself. And I still feel that. Even last week, I'm talking about in the nick of time, when these books came in, Iris came to my house, and she was like, this has never happened in the history of books. They all came in at the same time. It was very exciting. I was jumping for joy. I didn't even have no shoes on. I ran out the house barefoot, okay, y'all? I was so excited. And when I ran back in the house, I picked up my phone, and I was getting ready to dial 347-4471. 374-4471. That was my dad's office number. And I was like, oh, he's not there. Okay. Well, I'm still excited. I wish he was here, but there's moments like that, even 5 years later, where I just want to call him and I just want to talk to him, and I don't have that opportunity. Even to tell him about some of the things that I've struggled with that I'm going to get to in the book in relationships. I was dating a guy for a very, very long time, right before my father passed. And what ended our relationship is that he pretty much didn't come see my father while he was ill. And my father, he was a very quiet man, had a very quiet way about him. And we were in the hospital one day. We pretty much lived in Baptist Hospital like 2 months before he passed away. And we were watching court TV, because, you know, that's what lawyers do. And out of nowhere, he mentioned the young man's name, and he was like, I think you deserve better. And that's all I'm going to say about that. That's all he had to say. I'm like, it's over. What are you talking about? Thank you for saving my life. But I think he said that at that moment in that time because he was concerned about who was going to take care of me when he was gone. And I remember, y'all, I got on too much mascara, but I have to tell you this story because it's so important. I remember when his doctor, very good doctor, Dr. Gary Nunn, had came to see my father, just doing the rounds. And basically, when you're in a hospital and you're sick, if they can't save you, you either go to hospice or you go home and die. That's pretty much what it is, because a hospital is a facility for treatment. So if they can't treat whatever is ailing you, then you can't be there. So Dr. Nunn pulled my mother and I out in the hallway, and he pretty much said, we can't stop it. The cancer is everywhere. We can't stop it. And so I'm like, I got to get myself together because I want to walk back in this room and I want to be as strong for my father as he's been for me my entire life. And my mom is like, I don't know how we're going to tell him, but we have to tell him. So when we came back in the room, my dad was sitting on the edge of the bed. We were playing dominoes, y'all. He loves dominoes. And if anybody want to challenge me, you can get some. But he was sitting on the edge of the bed, and he looked up, and he looked us in our eyes, and he said, I'm not going to make it, am I? And we knew that he wasn't. And that was like him being okay with that and accepting and being, I'm still not at peace with it. But my father was so at peace with moving on to his next assignment. My father knew when people were coming to see them, he would say, I know they're coming to say goodbye. And he was okay with that. And I'd be like, Daddy, I'm not okay with this. Like, I'm just not okay. Because I felt like I had so many more conversations to have and so much more to learn from him. And my youngest brother, I have older siblings. I have 7 older half-siblings and my youngest brother who I grew up with, and they all live out of state. And so I was having conversations with all of them because I was the only one here. And at some point, see, corner, thank you, boo. My daddy also taught me how to cry pretty. You got to cry down so you don't mess up your mascara at the function. He was like, don't be crying in public, don't be crying on your wedding day. So I'm just practicing, y'all. That was just a test run right there. But I was having these conversations with my siblings, and I remember telling my youngest brother, Justin, I was like, I don't know when it's going to be. This was a Monday evening. I said, I don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to be this week. And my father died the next morning at 6:28 a.m. And so a lot of what I've had to write about is going through life without him, going through my own trials as a woman, as an activist, as a person who is healing from everything that ails me. I've had tumors in my uterus. I've had miscarriages. I've had bad relationships. I've struggled financially. There have been times where I couldn't take care of myself and I didn't know how. And so I just kept writing. From 8 years old up until today, y'all, it was like 5:20. And I said, I need 10 minutes by myself because I got to write something down. And I love the ambient noise of everybody who was filling the space and talking. And I'm like, this is beautiful. And I'm going to gather these thoughts and I'm going to bring the people these stories and just let them see who I am. And that's what my poetry is about. And that's what a love story waiting to happen is about. For people to see who I am as a person, as a woman, as a person of color in this country, as a lover, as a friend, as a daughter, as a sibling, just all of the levels of who I am. And if it's okay, I would like to share some of those levels with you right now from the book. Is that all right? Y'all, look, I could not decide. I'm going to keep it brief, though, because I really want to hear what you got to say. But, hey, Mother, how are you? There are so many good poems in this book. There are over 50 poems in this book. There are over 20 photographs in this book. There's so much of my blood and my sweat and my activism and just my life in this book, and I couldn't decide. So I'm gonna make a decision now since we're all here gathered in this place. The doors of the church are open. The book is broken into sections, and each section has a different theme, a different vibration of love, if you will, because I don't think that love is one-dimensional or just one thing. And so I'll read you a poem or two from each section and maybe give you some background on it. And then I'll open it up for questions, because that's the best part of the speaker series, is when people be like, so girl, tell me. So the first section in the book is ebb. And I describe ebb as a stillness that cannot be explained, a pool of quietness. And so the poem that I want to share with you from this section is a poem that I wrote when I was ill and I couldn't get out of bed. And people like Caroline and Zach, I don't know where Zach is, my practicum team, basically, we were taking those long rides to Hope, and I was like, I'm about to die. This hurts so bad. And they're like, it's okay. You want to lay across the seat? It's fine. We got you. You need to rest. They were so wonderful. So this poem is when I was in my healing phase and just telling myself that it would be okay and that there are different ways to make love. Where is that quiet place, I ask myself, where I can go and remain what I have become, where I am more becoming of who I am becoming, ever coming into myself, without interruption, without the noise of the world or the noise I create, static of doubt not allowed in my quiet space, in my sacred space. I run my hands over my scars. I run my hands over my heart. It's the only compass I own. It gives me direction of where to go. It leads me to my quiet place. It never lies. Sometimes she cries for her memories. She remembers everything. And she knows how peace can be still, how pain can be stuck, frozen, hard. Be soft, I tell her. Be humble, be wild, be certain, be spontaneous, be free. Follow yourself and I'll follow you to that quiet place. I'll lay there. I need to cootie, Afrobeat my own drum, come into my own understanding, make love to myself. I'm glorious and free. Like water, I flow and pool into my quietness. Thank you. So, yes, y'all are well rehearsed on the church clap. I love it. I have the best audience ever. So the next section is flow, and I describe flow as fluid and cool. It washes over rocks and makes them smooth, rounded stones. And there were a couple pieces. I couldn't decide, but I think we'll do this one. This one's cute. So this poem is called Love is Magic. And I wrote it for a friend, and I have been there when you just been going down through it, and you don't know when you're going to get up out of it, and you just don't believe in love, and you think that love is the most hideous thing that you'll ever experience. It's not. It's beautiful. Hideous is just, the aftertaste if love goes wrong. But this poem is that love can happen, and it's called Love is Magic. Love is magic, dear heart, if only you believe. Wear your love on your sleeve and eat 3 cloves for breakfast. Sage your soul with the intent of making love work. That is your goal. Love is magic, magic that exists, warm in a world so cold, in a heart so old, tattered from the rugged storms. Hear me. Love is magic, dear heart, if only you believe. Wear your love on your sleeve and drink 3 rums for lunch. Burn your oil with the intent of making love work. Open yourself up. Touch yourself on your heart. Feel what pumping feels like, what blood does when it bleeds. I would bleed for you, but I can't believe for you. I will only tell you what I know. Love is magic, dear heart, if only you believe. Wear your love on your sleeve and eat 3 moons for dinner. Say your prayers with the intent of making love work. It does, trust me, I'm magic. So the next section is disruption, and for all of you who know my Power to the People, Black Panther, Angela Davis, Free Huey Realness, this is the section for you, okay? Marquisa, this is your section, girl, okay? This is for you. So I describe disruption as a monster with 8 heads, long, jagged back, and a clubbed tail that attempted to block my path. That's what we call oppression, people. And so a poem I want to read, just very dear to my heart, is called The Village. Up until a few months ago, I lived in the East End. I grew up in Southwest Little Rock. If anybody familiar with Southwest Little Rock? Yes, praise Southwest. I love where I'm from. And this is just a commentary. Although Little Rock is a beautiful city, and I believe that she has the potential of being a cultural mecca of the South, it is also a very divided town. It is also a racist town, and gentrification is real. And so this poem speaks to that, and it's called The Village. Gentrification is the new genocide. Cyanide with white lines from bike lanes and pedestrian crossing signs. New construction, old houses torn down, historic brick and mortar hit the ground. Families are forced to move out, but where do they go? What happens when some sell out instead of deciding to own? What happens when we don't have our own? Where have all the cowboys gone? Probably drinking themselves under a bridge, for they have nowhere to live. So drink up your Starbucks and your fancy cups, nothing like a sip of Black Death to start the day. Diluted with cream and a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Downtown, south and east of what's central to the village. Named and mapped out, neighborhood signs by the trap house. Granny's daffodils in bloom while gentrifiers grab their brooms and clean up what they see as a dump. Not respecting the beauty that is, not respecting the neighborhood kids who grew up on these blocks, played until our mamas called our names or until the street lights came on, made the mailbox on the curb home base, the basketball goal in the yard second, the porch was third, and it rang true, kickball, baseball, any game would do. But it was our home, not zoned for takeover and rich saviors, wealthy friends doing their wealthy friends favors. But this is our block, where auntie and uncle sit on their stoops with lemonade they sip. This ain't no zombie apocalypse. Black bodies with no brains, no scarecrows. We have diplomas, you know. We have heart and courage to last our whole lives through. We have the power to rid ourselves of feuds and greed. We cut our grass, no weeds. We water our plants, all seeds. All power to all people, yes indeed. So don't be renaming our streets to read, this is a neighborhood of so-and-so division, only to create division. Seems like their math is bad. To be on the come up, you gotta add, not subtract. See what I mean? Gentrification is the new genocide. Cyanide with white lines for bike lanes and pedestrian crossing signs. New construction, old houses torn down, historic brick and mortar hit the ground. Families are forced to move out, but where do they go? What happens when some sell out instead of deciding to own? What happens when we don't have our own? Where have all the cowboys gone? Probably drinking themselves under a bridge, for they have nowhere to live, so drink up your Starbucks and your fancy cups, nothing like a sip of Black Death to start the day. But we don't die, we multiply. Don't believe me, just watch and open your eyes. I will build towers, I will build nations. My womb is the universe, and it's time to take this city to school. Class is in session, and Black power is the lesson, and the revolution is coming to a city near you. I'm going to read just a few more because really, I could really legit read you every poem in this book. I need to put it on wax, before I go to Ghana. But I'll read you a few more. This is the section that I am most apprehensive about. I have to tell you the truth because that's what writers do. That's what people do. And here it is. It is chaos. And chaos is referring to all of the bad relationships that I have had. Lady Gaga, bad romance. So I describe chaos as being my lover. What seemed exciting was only a disguise for destruction. Sip that tea. Okay. Oh, I love this poem. I'll read you this one. It's called Possum. I was in a very strange relationship with a person where I allowed things to happen because I was so comfortable being with that person instead of being myself with somebody else. And a lot of times that happens. So I also take responsibility for those relationships that didn't work out. But this is one of the lessons that I learned when that happened to me. And this poem is called Possum. I learned how to play dead. Be quiet and still when you were on the phone with her. We were having dinner. We had argued too many times before, so I sat there, quiet, forcing food down my throat to avoid saying a word to you, looking forward, pretending not to notice. I was a possum, country girl from the South with a swamp bottom, hips that could spread across Africa, a smile that stretches across the universe, and yet you managed to make me small with your infidelities. No matter how beautiful I was, you would still take her call. At a table, I made a seat for you. A meal prepared by my hands, I played dead, pretended that I still loved you as I once did, but I wasn't filled. I was hollow, my belly fed, my soul hungry for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, I got a few more. Can y'all handle a few more? Do y'all love the poetry so far? That's awesome. All right, one more from Chaos, because this is the last time I tell you the truth, and then you're going to have to buy my book and read it, because it's a lot of truth in here. This poem I wrote, I write about what I'm feeling. So if the sun is shining, I'm happy. It's like, oh, I'm bathing in the sun, and I'm this beautiful, glorious black goddess. And if I'm sad, I'm like, I'm under the sheets, and I want to hide in a corner, and it's like all these things. So I end up writing what I feel, and at this point, in this relationship, I felt like this was the last poem I was going to write for this person. And it was. And I was very proud of myself, because sometimes you say that, then you go back and you be like, oh, but he said, but he did, but girl, he's still not the one. So this was the last poem I wrote for this person. And it's called Now That I Have Your Attention. The last sad poem I will write about you. Poof, he gone. I was your captive audience turned captured wench, chained beside you. Your sweet nothings became sour nothings and made my ears bleed. Bought and sold, separated from days of old, then time smashed us together. Fleshy bodies crashed into each other, and you told me it was nothing. How can I be nothing when I'm something? You had me questioning my existence, crying every time I listened to a song that reminded me of you. I stopped listening and became an island, a fleshy mass floating on my tears. The years became waves that crashed into my side, kept me up at night. I'm sure you slept. I'm sure you slept with her. I had a dream there was a duffel bag full of panties under your bed, my size but not my style. I found a tube of mascara in your bathroom, so I threw it at your head while you slept. But it was just a dream. And Granny told me let sleeping dogs lie, because dogs with open eyes will always tell you lies. And they won't tuck their tails between their legs. It will wag furiously. They will brag famously about how you took a stray in and made him kin, and he just made you nothing. Okay, a couple more, because I really want to get to your questions, and like I said, I could read all night. And this poem is for, we have twins in class 12, the brothers Trevino. And one of them, he's here tonight, Brandon Trevino. Everybody, this is Brandon right here, one of my classmates, putting you on the spot. Andrew and Brandon lost one of their siblings. He passed away. And not exactly knowing that pain, because everybody's grief is different. I lost a parent, they lost a sibling, but I definitely felt for them. And one day, going to Hope, Andrew was explaining some of the circumstances that was surrounding their brother's death. And I was very just inspired by how open he was, because I knew how hard it was for their family. It happened during holiday break. So in between Christmas and a wedding, and it was just a very difficult time. And so I wrote a poem for their brother, and it's called Trevino Lullaby, and I would like to read it for you tonight in honor of Eric. You're welcome. Sleep, dear brother. We didn't lose you. You only needed to rest. Find some peace for your soul. Struggle no more, float on clouds, ride comets through the cosmos, see things that you've never seen, and have a piece of the peace you so desperately needed. Sleep, dear brother. We didn't lose you. Your blood runs through our veins, but we miss looking at your face. We miss being in your space, your smile. We smiled the same smile. We looked up to you and empathized with your pain. Hurt no more, worry not. We will never forget you. Sleep, dear brother. We didn't lose you. We are beginning to understand your truth. You found your freedom abound with no rules. Be free, dear brother, and rest in peace. So, you're welcome. So I'm going to skip a few sections, but if you buy the book, you'll definitely read it, and I think that you'll enjoy it. And I'm going to go to the last section and read my final piece before I take your questions. And the last section is lovely, and I describe lovely as me. And I think it is all-encompassing of the journey and the ebb and flow and the variations of the different type of loves that we experience, and definitely what I experienced writing this book. And so if any of y'all know me, y'all know I got to keep it real black, because I love black people. I want to free black people. And this poem that I'm going to read you is an ode to that, and my love for my people and where I come from. And I'm so excited, too, to be going to Ghana, because I got my DNA done, which is something I wanted to do before I left to the motherland. And 18% of my genetic background comes from Ghana. And that was so refreshing to have that information. And so this poem means so much more to me now. And it's going to be my last piece that I read for you tonight. And it is called Black Love. Mother, I am mother. Cavern of color. Even though my womb became a tomb, I am still mother, rough and tough with my afro puffs. Survived the ages with my Norar blood, black babies. I am my mother's black baby. She is her mother's black baby, going way back to the primordial ooze of black. Sun people, dark babies in all shades, let them suckle. I am mother, highlight of color, taken out of my father's arms, sold, captured, diluted, doesn't matter, still black. Black lives matter, black babies matter, black love matters, black history matters, for it is the history of the world. Still mother, still lover, still here, smiling through my tears, healing black bodies, making black babies. One day, they will split the apex of the black pyramid, crown, wear their crown proudly. My mother's paid for it eons ago, and I will gladly pass it on. That's love. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we've got time for a few questions, but when I cut it off, it's only because we have to have time to sign these books. and knowing Crystal, she'll be having conversations with you as we go through. So don't be mad when I cut it off. Okay.
Hey, Crystal.
Hey, Cece.
It's weird introducing myself to you, but I'm Catherine. I'm a classmate of Crystal's. I have a question about your process.
Okay.
So my question is, have you ever written a piece that you hate, and then how do you fall in love with that piece?
Yes, I write things that I hate every day. I'm like, this is terrible. This is horrible. I don't want to say this. Ooh, that's too real. I don't want nobody to know this. But I think for me, I don't throw it away, because what I'm understanding now, and for some of you who have followed my journey and what some of you might learn tonight, is last summer I was diagnosed with depression and started an antidepressant, and it took me down through there. I attempted suicide twice, and I couldn't write anything. So when I was on Zoloft, I couldn't write. And I think that was driving me more crazy than like actually being depressed. And I don't know what pulled me out of that funk, but the first poem I wrote was called Suicide. And I posted it to my Instagram and my Facebook because I kind of disappeared, just to let people know what I was going through, what I was feeling. And I feel like I can't be anyone's hero. I can't be anyone's friend. I can't be anyone's sister. I can't be anyone's activist, public servant if I'm not myself. And that is something that I struggled with. And after I wrote that piece, I had a friend who reached out to me. I used to teach his daughter acting classes, and he said, I was about to kill myself tonight until I read your poem. And that's when I knew it doesn't matter how horrible it is or how painful it is, that I cannot stop writing, because it's helping me, and the things that I have decided to share have helped so many other people. So that's when I'm not sure and I get a message like that, it's easy for me to fall in love with something that's hard to love.
Okay, Crystal, you're going to recognize this person over here who's going to ask this question.
Yes, I am.
Everybody at the Clinton School recognizes Annie Abrams.
And my other.
Sweetie Pie.
Yes.
We had a little car problem out there.
Oh, no.
And God had a man that could fix it for the chauffeur that just barely got there. But I knew CC would kick my behind if I wasn't here. So I just want you to know you are the black diamond that I'll wear forever.
Aww. That's love. That's black love. I'm telling you. Black love. Yes.
Well, I was expecting a 5-minute question from Annie. And Crystal is the black diamond. I think that's pretty cool.
Hey.
Okay, question, yeah.
I might have the 5-minute question. Cece,
Yeah.
as friends, as supporters of your work and of you, what can we do when we leave here tonight to help elevate your voice, perpetuate your story, and, raise awareness of your book?
Thank you so much for that. So I have a website, y'all. I love storywaitingtohappen.com. Please go and visit it. Take a look-see at it. I'm in school. It's real homegrown, but it's pretty fly. I feel like the first thing you can do is speak my father's name, Attorney Christopher C. Mercer Jr., because his legacy is the reason why I exist genetically and spiritually, and all the work that he has done has just propelled my work as an artist and an activist. Right now, in my process as a student in writing this book, definitely support the book, buy the book, read the book, tell me what you think about it, and encourage other people to just get into this freedom that I have in these stories that I'm telling. And then also, as I make my way to Ghana and complete my graduate studies working with the New Buke Foundation there in Accra, I have a GoFundMe campaign, GoFundMe.com/CC Ghana, that's SEE Ghana. And those financial contributions and just love and affirmations will help me continue the work and just give me that foundation that I need to keep going, because sometimes it does get hard, and I recognize being an army of one is not as fun as it sounded like. But I have my local first army, I have my Clinton School army, I have all of my friends, my loves, my supports here. So just keep speaking my Father's name, encourage people to read the work, and support what I'm doing through the Clinton School, because I feel like it's leading me on a path to my life's journey in arts and activism.
All right, I'm cutting this off only because I want you to buy her book.
Please.
Please. So let's give a great Clinton School welcome to Crystal Mercer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, we're going to go over here.
Yes.
Okay.
So please, I'll be right here signing books. If you already have purchased a copy, I have already signed it for you, and you can just pick it up. And if you need to purchase a copy, we can take care of that as well. 2 of my classmates, Beth and Yala, are helping me with that, and then I'll just sign and talk to you. And I want to touch your face. I see all of my beautiful, I see Tabitha, I see I see Tara. That home base, that was all us on Drexel. Like, that's how we played in the yard. So I see so many people that I love. Please let me hug your neck and bless my eyes on you, and don't leave without saying goodbye, because it may be the last time I see you for a very, very long time. And I love you, and I thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes.